Hi, everybody. Hey, we're here today with Sheenae. How do you pronounce your last name? I haven't pronounced it yet.
Bunzel.
Bunzel. Yeah, and pleasure to meet you. Thanks for joining us on this interview call. We invited Sheenae on here because she is a retreat leader who is developing an amazing year-long program that we thought you guys would all be interested in learning about and should know about. And so we're just going to have a conversation around how she got here and what this retreat is all about. And we think it's super interesting for a certain subset of folks that are entrepreneurial or leaders in industry, leaders in business, and who are looking to do a career transition. And so it's a 1 year program. Sinead, why don't you kind of give us a little bit of an overview of kind of what inspired you for this program and how you see this program serving people?
Yeah, definitely. So, a bit of background around me before being in this line of work and my entrepreneurial path. I was in corporate sales in tech specifically, and I was a corporate sales leader. So, I was managing sales teams. And so, it was a very different part of my personality, my brain, and obviously a lot of aspects of that part of my career and that part of my resume go into the success and the trajectory I'm in now.
Can you name
Um,
names? Can you
well,
can you
of
drop some
companies that I
names?
work
Can you drop some names?
for. Yeah, so I was at IBM, Miro, Salesforce,
Okay,
IBM, Salesforce, Miro. Yeah,
All the
some
big,
big
yep.
names,
So
the big
big name
names.
tech companies and sales leadership.
yeah, yeah. And I'm so grateful for that part of my life because I feel like it helped me build a lot of skills, including sales skills, are amazing for when you're an entrepreneur because you always need to be able to be super passionate about what you're selling. But the best thing about being an entrepreneur is a lot of times you're selling something that you're deeply passionate about and you're excited about. And you wake up every day and you're like, this is something I really want to be talking about. So that's a big part of it, as well as the leadership skills were developed in my management. So I noticed that the ways that I was able to coach, inspire, and uplift people are some of the same things that I start to use in my own practice. But I don't know how deep we want to go into my
What is
journey.
your practice? Explain your
Yeah,
practice because I
tell
know you have a few different threads of modalities that you specialize in. So,
Yeah.
how would you define your practice and what you do?
Yeah, so my practice first started. It was actually when I was first going into my leadership career, and I had an ayahuasca ceremony that gave me the message to create music. So at first I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a DJ, but then it was ayahuasca, so it became sound healing, and I started to incorporate a number of different instruments that create beautiful sounds that take people into deep meditative states, bring them out of their chaotic thinking brain and into like their body, into their soul, into their spirit. And for me, my first sound healing was the first time I really could clear my brain. For any people that are in high intense or high pressure jobs like the ones that I was in before, a lot of times your head is so consumed with so much going on. So sound healing just brought me out of that. And then because plant medicine was a big part of my path, I wanted to incorporate something that was accessible for everyone. So breath work became a modality where you can kind of access those altered states of consciousness without needing to take anything.
Mhm.
However, as things progressed and as my journey continued, I ended up departing from corporate in February 2023 and officially decided that plant medicine was going to be a big part of the work that I was doing. So I got different trainings. I'm now involved in a master's program that's focused on integral noetic science with a concentration on psychedelic studies. So I was able to kind of carve a new path for myself. And all along the way, I would say plant medicine and my own spiritual meditative practices were able to guide me closer and closer to my soul's true purpose and toward the direction that was more aligned to who I am rather than the direction that I thought I needed to follow because those are the steps that you're meant to take in our modern day society. So the seasonal retreat series was born out of an ayahuasca ceremony that I had back in this past January 2024. And the model is unique, and that's kind of the ayahuasca esque aspect of it. But ayahuasca won't be a part of this. However, some plant medicine will be a part of this. So we can dive into that a little bit more. But
Sure.
essentially, these different 4 seasons were the seasons that I needed to go through in order to go through a full transformation and embark on the journey that I'm on right now. So these different seasons start with autumn. So around last year was when I first started to get into the process of, I mean, I'll take it back to February 2023. Circumstances out of my control led to a move to Canada. So I'm an American.
Go
I'm from
Canada.
we love Canada. um, I, however, at the time it was really challenging for me because I'm from the Silicon Valley, born and raised in Cupertino, and I didn't have rights there. So I ended up, unfortunately, being a part of a layoff because they were bringing leaders back into the office. They wanted people, their teams, and so the move to Canada created this opportunity for me to be like, okay, well, I've been working on Solii since 2021, 2020, 2021. It's time for me to finally do what I'm meant to be doing. I have this amazing gift of a layoff package, but I'm also going to give myself time because there's always that back and forth, right? So there's always this moment of, um, do I do it? Do I not? And there were 3 months that I gave myself where I was like, most people would be like, I'm looking for a job immediately. But I was like, I'm going to take my time. I want to see how I feel. And at the end of it, I ended up having a mushroom journey that allowed me to realize that I'm not going back. It's time to completely dive in, move forward. Then started the psychedelic guide work training, then started a little bit more of my own inner work. And then comes shedding your conditioning. So shedding your conditioning happened.
Wait, Shanae, I'm gonna interrupt you. So, had you been already leading group sessions and group practices at this point? You have,
Yes.
yeah. What's your background with like leading groups?
Yeah. So I started solely in 20. So the ayahuasca ceremony I had that guided me toward music was in 2020, and so I started doing one-on-ones, two-on-ones, and then by 2021, when I officially launched solely as a business, I was living in Australia at the time. So Lindsay, go
Shout out to
Australia.
Lindsay
Yes,
and who's
shout
now
out
in
to
I
Bay.
have
everyone here.
have experience in all the different locations.
Yeah.
But I and then I started working with groups. So I started working with groups of people to facilitate sessions. I created my first retreat in Bellingen in Australia. So that was like a first opportunity to try out retreats. And then the groups were also in my corporate career as well. So I was leading groups of people from that capacity as well.
Amazing.
Obviously, a bit different when I'm telling people to update their forecasts every
Not
week.
barking orders at people. Yeah.
Barking or telling them to prospect and yeah, exactly, update forecasts and like I have
Yeah.
forecasts. But that was, yeah, once again, like different styles of leadership that also started to, there were 2 sides of my life that started to happen. And I started trying to merge them a little bit, especially in Australia. And Lindsay, you know this, Australia has really amazing work life balance, right? So you
Yeah.
have a lot of people, you can actually shut your laptop around 5 or even 4, go to the beach, whatever.
Yep.
And so I feel like incorporating solely while I was there into my business life was a lot easier. So I was able to put on like, wellness Wednesdays where at the end with my team, I would do a sound healing or a breath work. And I often found that by incorporating this in with my team, it helped them perform better because they just felt better about themselves. They felt more at peace. They felt more relaxed. They just weren't as much in their heads as they normally would be without some kind of practice like this. So that's where I also really started to see firsthand the benefit from a business professional perspective on what this kind of work does for human potential. So, but to be honest, going back to the United States, choosing like pre-IPO hyper growth startup company and leading sales teams there, it was go go go. So my capacity to actually make room for Soli and my work there, like I'm very dedicated and like yeah, I really am devoted to this craft. So I wanted to make sure I was always in the right place in order to serve others and to give back to others. And
Yeah.
when I was in that role, I was so stressed that I couldn't really give back to others. So it was really hard for me. It was really hard for me to manage the two. So that's what ultimately led to the opportunity to transition.
And then with the severance package, you were able to then focus and go all in on this journey, which you had
Yeah.
a, can we call it a directive? Or you had an inspiration from your own ayahuasca journey to, so Solii had already been created.
Yeah.
And I just
Mhm.
want to touch on this because I did a little bit of research. That has Korean roots. What is the name Solii?
Yeah.
What
So
is that? What's the meaning of it?
Solii is derived from the Korean word for sound. So the Korean word for sound is sori. And so there are like little elements of Korean in my practice. I'm half Korean, half American European descent. And so I feel like I'm also a bit of a bridge between worlds, a bridge
Mhm.
between a lot of like Eastern philosophies. Even though my mom was raised, I believe, like, yeah, more Catholic, but the Buddhist mentalities were so embedded into her and her culture and the way she lives and operates. So I feel like I adopted a lot of that growing up. And then my father has a lot more of the Western side of being, the American dream achiever, the entrepreneur. So I feel like I kind of like being that bridge between worlds and helping other people bridge a little bit more of those different sides of their personality to have more of like the Zen Buddhists coming back to mindfulness, coming back to presence, as well as helping people really be in their purpose, really be in their gifts, their spark, and like bring forth ideas that will help uplift humanity in
So
meaningful
your
ways.
dad's white then?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. He's from Wisconsin.
I'm ethnically 100% Persian, but I was born and raised in Texas eating barbecue and cornbread. So I don't know what that makes me. I'm a little bit of everything.
Well,
I'm like as American as apple pie.
oh, totally, totally. And I feel you on the middle America thing because I lived in Wisconsin for school, and so it was also this interesting opportunity to have a taste of like it was a different culture, California is quite diverse, and I didn't look that different. And then moving to middle of Wisconsin, it was a little different, but it was amazing, and it was a great opportunity to have another taste of the world.
Amazing. So slowly, then you had this journey, and then you were inspired to create this year-long program, which I thought was interesting when we met. We met
Yes.
kind of coincidentally or by synchronicity in Vancouver. You were here doing an event, and we had sort of crossed paths in email, but then we ran into each other in person, which was really great. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we had this email exchange." So then you started telling me about this year-long program, which I thought was really interesting, and you're really targeting entrepreneurs and leaders who are
Yes.
looking for career and professional transition.
Yes.
And tell us about the year kind of concept and the structure of that. You were started mentioning about the seasons. Can you dig
Yeah.
into that a little bit for us?
Yeah. Well, the seasonality of it is actually a major component because I just feel like um, as humans and especially in our Western culture, like we can learn so much when we tune more into nature. And I think that our connection to nature is probably what is missing for a lot of people and their disconnection to themselves. I feel like there's a massive component there. So first of all, there is the deep connection to nature that all of these different retreats have a component on. It will be touched on every single retreat. But the seasons of transformation go along with my journey of transformation and what I needed to do to get to a point where I could embark fully and purposefully on the path that I'm on now. So in autumn, it starts by shedding your conditioning. So this is the retreat coming up November 7th through the 10th. And it's in the Northeast where the leaves are changing. There'll probably be a lot on the ground, but that's part of the shedding process. So kind of like tuning into the trees of like stripping down the layers, allowing yourselves to change, allowing yourselves to let go and strip down to get to the core of who you are. And that will be plant medicine microdosing. So it's an opportunity to kind of start to get familiar with the medicine
Well,
and
medicine,
psilocybin.
psilocybin.
Yep.
Okay.
So microdosing psilocybin. And then the next part of the journey will be cocooning inward. So we're entering our little cocoons. It's cold. We're in a winter snowy Caslow, British Columbia. near Nelson, BC, if anyone's heard of it. But it's a beautiful venue, a really snowy location. So we can start to move into, we'll call it the darkness, like the shadows. We're working on the areas of ourselves that sometimes we disown, but we need to like love and incorporate and accept those parts of ourselves and shed light on them so that we can become fully integrated wholes. And that leads to, more self-trust, self-love, self-belief, so that we can emerge from our cocoons. And this is microdosing as well, because I also believe, because I am quite practiced in the plant medicine psychedelic space, I know that a lot of times it requires some additional layers of shedding and moving inward before we go into the full macrodose, like building a relationship with the medicine and really learning the intentionality, the sacredness, the reverence, and, like not going straight for the moon before we've taken our first steps.
So
So
for
that's
somebody
why,
who may not be as experienced with medicine journeys, how do you define the difference between micro and macro dose? Like, what does
yeah,
that mean?
great question. So microdose is non-hallucinogenic. So you will not be going into like seeing
Alternate
different,
realities with
yeah,
gargoyles
alternate
and like,
realities. The one thing I will say, even in breath work, people do go, what was that?
it's
He
just
was
like
like, "You're not
mythical
going to."
creatures running around the floor. Like, you're not gonna like go into outer space on a microdose.
Hey, you never know. Like I you might see that when you're not taking anything. So I can't
True,
guarantee
true.
I can't guarantee
True.
no. Also, this is like part of what I'm studying in my master's. So like I'm learning about very esoteric out there stuff. But the one thing I will say is even in breath work, and that's using nothing, people are able to kind of access alternate states of consciousness. So but I would say on the microdosing level, like a lot of people will do it just like in their day-to-day, like normal waking lives, like while they're work. Like a lot of Silicon Valley people, I'm sure you've heard of, like
Yeah,
are
there
microdosing.
was some VC funded tech CEO that got fired because he was microdosing in the middle of the VC presentation, and then he like admitted to it, and he thought it was like no big deal, and the VCs were like, "What?" So this is off the clock. This is off the clock. This is in a
Okay.
safe place, and the microdose is a very minuscule amount.
Yeah. So it's subtle. I used to say sub-perceptual, but like a lot of times you do feel it. You do, if you're in tune with yourself and your body, you will feel it a little bit. Like you might see, I like to say, maybe the sky is a little bit bluer, maybe the plants are a little bit more vibrant, like maybe you're feeling a little bit more sparkly, maybe you're feeling a little bit more positive, more joyful, more creative. Like I find that it's really great for expanding creativity and new ways of thinking and new thought patterns. So it can be really helpful for like rewiring your brain and thinking in new ways. So, but it is on a small level, so you're not going to feel out of control. You're not going to feel like you can't manage it, and you're with a guided group of facilitators that are here to support you. Um, we have
And
myself.
why does that matter? Like, why does that help me if I'm in transition, or if I want to be transition into going into a new venture or a new role in life? How does going on a psilocybin journey help me in that process?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say it's the creating new neural pathways and expanding the ways that your brain can think. Like a lot of times, and if you follow Michael Pollan, you'll hear this, but if you're used to going down a path, almost like a sled down a slope, and it's grooving in the same exact way every time, this is an opportunity to get like a fresh layer of snow and carve a new path. So, say, for example, like you're used to doing your job in this way because you've done it this way for 20 years. But now with microdosing or with like plant medicine, whatever capacity ends up being, well, I'll speak specifically to this retreat. We're trying to create new patterns because a lot of these people are transitioning from one way of being to another way of being. I can specifically say for myself, transitioning from the safety, the comfort, the consistency of a corporate job to being my own boss, carving my own path, especially in a way that is in a line of work that is more esoteric and different. Like it has been very, very important and essential for me to, have like a sacred relationship with this plant medicine, and it's been pivotal in my journey, honestly. And that's why I do feel like my retreats would be, I wouldn't say missing something without it, because I've had retreats before without it, but it would be missing a part of my journey without it
Mhm.
that was instrumental in my transformation. And so I know it worked for me. So for people that are on a similar path as me, I believe it will help.
So this
I
is about
think too
creating.
that. Sorry, Lindsay, go ahead.
I was
I'm
going to
waiting
say,
for
so this is
Sheenae.
about creating lasting change, and I had a couple questions around that. Do you have to be familiar with psilocybin at all before coming on these retreats, or you can be completely unfamiliar and come
Yeah,
on? And do you
you
need
can.
to, and then as a follow up is just, do you need to continue using this afterwards to continue on your lasting change? Or I guess that's why you've created a year-long journey, because you need a specific amount of time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really believe, and I've seen for myself, that in order to create lasting change that actually can withstand after the retreat and like lead into your normal day-to-day lives where you're used to certain routines and patterns, like that's why a year long is nice. But um I just lost my train of thought. Can you repeat the question? Oh, so the answer is no and no. You don't
Okay.
have to be familiar with plant medicine, but I would say with plant medicine, with and if anybody has heard of like ayahuasca journeys, like you've probably heard of hearing the call. Like it's almost, and that can be as simple as an intuitive hit, right? It's like you feel it in your heart that you're just like, this feels right for me. And so I would say for people that are interested that have never experienced plant medicine, trust your intuition. Is this something that feels like it would be interesting for you? Are you open minded? Because that's another aspect of it. We always say with psychedelics, set and setting is very important. So having the right mindset and having the right setting. So if you're
Mhm.
coming in with an open minded mindset for a journey with psychedelics, then you're more ready to let go. You're more ready to surrender and see whatever comes up. You're open minded. And then the setting, because this is a structured format with a group of facilitators that are holding space for you, and with a group that you will become very like trusting with, like you're building the same relationships and you're coming back to the same group of people throughout the entire seasons of transformation. And I probably will go into, because I was still at cocooning inward, right? That's
Yeah, you
where
were
I
in
was
winter. We were in
like,
winter.
I was in winter.
Yeah.
Okay, well that kind of goes in the cocoon inner journey. So cocoons, inner journeys, microdosing as well. And so when you're in the cocoons, you're in the darkness, you're thinking about like how to fully become an integrated whole. You're developing your wings so you can spread and blossom into purpose.
And
Blossom
that's
into
February. Cocooning
blossom.
into winter is February.
Cocooning inward is February, first weekend of February. All of these retreats are the first weekends of November, February, May, and August.
Okay.
I kind of went with the tech quarterly schedule. So if you have your end of quarter and you want a little break, this is it. And so after cocooning inward, working on that, you're blossoming into purpose. So blossoming into purpose is the macro dose. So this will be the deep dive journey, and it's a focus around purpose. So the idea is, a lot of times in psychedelic journeys, what we're hearing about, and this has kind of been very important in order for it to become more legalized, but people are going straight into, a journey thinking that like they're going to come up with a business idea or be the best like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, because you heard they do psychedelics and they built really great companies. And it's like we have to start with the inner work, because psychedelics go toward where it needs healing. And so it's going to start with where needs work. And we're kind of working through those layers. And sometimes, and I know for myself, sometimes when I've gone into a macro dose for like more deeper trauma work, it's been too much. So that's why I wanted to kind of work on the cocooning inward is we're working on that inner work in a space where we're in more control, we have more flexibility with it. And then as we're moving more into purpose, then we can go into that macro dose. We'll also be working on ikigai in that retreat. So that's like the combination of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, what you can get paid for. That will probably be a bit of like the precursor before going into the macro dose. So you start to have ideas of what you would want to bring forth into the world. And then from those purposeful ideas, we go into igniting into action, which is the beginning of August, and that's the summer retreat. So that's taking these purposeful ideas that have come forth and creating action plans in order to take steps to implement it into your current reality. And like who knows what's going to come up. Like I said, plant medicine, we're not in control. It's kind of just allowing for whatever is to unfold will happen. But I assume it'll be a very interesting group container where like there's a lot of beautiful ideas and synchronicities, things that unveil and develop. So I've seen it already in my microdose coaching guiding containers, the synchronicities of the groups that end up coming together. And I feel like, I don't know if it's the psilocybin, but it's this mycelial network that gets interwoven of somehow all the right people that are meant to be connected together come together and magic happens.
I love that. Where's the spring one? What's the destination?
Spring is in Costa Rica.
Oh,
We were just
beautiful.
there.
Yeah.
We were
Yes.
just there. Costa Rica's amazing. What part? Pacific or Atlantic?
So it'll be Perez Zeldon. It'll be kind of in the mountain jungly region. Think like waterfalls and like,
Nice.
yeah, just jungly vibes. Yeah.
May in Costa Rica, and then the summer one is back in British Columbia, but
Summer
not at
one is
Nelson. That's on the coast.
it'll be on the coast in Tofino.
Oof. For anybody who hasn't been to Tofino, it's incredible. I live in Vancouver right now, and I've lived up and down the coast, the West Coast, in LA, San Francisco, and Vancouver. Tofino's up there. It's so beautiful, and especially in summer, it's peak season, so you really want to see it. Um, That's amazing. So what I love about this is the structure of it and the year-long program.
Yeah.
So usually retreats are a weekend or 4 or 5 days, whatever. You go in and you go out, and that's amazing. And there may be some integration before and after.
Mm-hmm.
And I entered the personal development, kind of personal growth space by going to workshops and seminars. And it was really common where you go and have a peak experience at these workshops, and then you go back, but the architecture of your life is still there to meet you and put you back into all the same dynamics that put you in those neural pathways to begin with. So what
Yes.
I love about this is, so I always would go back from workshops and on off the high of the workshop, and then like it starts fading and you get a little bit like, oh, like it's gone. But what I love about this is you sign up, you're going in with the same group of people, and you come back, there's the integration, like the monthly sessions that you're going to hold with the crew, and then
Yes.
you're looking forward to the next one.
Yes.
So it's not, you may be facing your life, you're going through life, getting new information, getting new feedback, acting on the things that you learned, and then you bring all those changes and transitions with you to the next one and the next location.
Yeah.
So it's like there's difference with the locations, but
Yeah.
there's continuity with the group. And I think
Exactly.
that's something I haven't experienced before in going to retreats and going to programs, is having the combination of the variety for that newness of transition, but also the continuity of the bonds and with the group that we're going to be experiencing,
Yes.
um, to provide that depth and that container to keep
Exactly.
bringing newness to it. And I think by the end of summer, which is when this program is going to, the cycle of the program is going to complete,
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's going through a transition is going to see themselves as a whole new person.
Yeah.
At least in the areas where you're placing intention. I would recommend coming into this with some intentionality, and it doesn't have to be like a 360-degree, like, oh, I'm completely changing my life or completely selling my business and going into a new one. Different phases of business development require different styles of leadership. And so it may be that you're in a place where new leadership is required of you. And
Yes.
so going through a transition is going to help you step into that moment and step up into the type of leadership that's required of you at that time. So it's a constantly evolving thing. I think it's really cool and a really cool concept to join. How
Yeah, it's not
big
one
are
that
these?
we've
These
encountered.
aren't. Sorry, Lindsay. What? Go ahead.
I was going to say it's not one that we've encountered before. I don't think we've seen anybody doing a like year
Yay!
long
Yeah.
retreat, which is why this was so interesting to us.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I'm excited to be the first. I'm excited to be hanging out and partnering with you guys and talking more.
Yeah, amazing.
What's the size of them? Are we keeping it intimate, or are you blowing it up to be big? What's your kind of target size or maximum size?
Intimate. It's
Yeah.
intimate. It's 10 to 15 people. I I so going back to what you said, and that was a great overview. Conceptualizes everything in a nice, like pretty box. But I would say I just like the vulnerable piece around this is that another part of this retreat series is I feel the same, like coming off of a retreat, all of a sudden you're so deeply connected. You're so in this environment where people are authentic and real and deep. And you're talking about topics that just you don't always get in your day to day life. But then all of a sudden you leave and then you're back in your day to day and you're like, why isn't everyone else talking like this? Why? And then you get back into your patterns, right? And for me, it was actually really lonely as I started to become an entrepreneur and I started to start my own path, because some people don't fully get it. Some people can't really fully resonate. And it's really helpful to be around other people that are embarking on similar journeys to you because when you're an entrepreneur and when you're starting something different, you need cheerleaders. You need people
Mhm.
on similar paths. You need a really supportive network. You can't do it alone. Like I've kind of made the metaphor that this project is my ayahuasca baby because I'm kind of like I'm a mother. You can't raise a child on your own. I need a village. And I've been collecting village members to help me co-parent this baby because it's hard. It's challenging. I feel like as an entrepreneur, a lot of time you're raising a baby. So that's another part of it. It's like these communities of people that get to go through a full journey have like this new family, this new village that and community is such a buzzword right now, but it's like actually this like point where you always get to come back to these people and really have that support network where that like in spending that much time and that deep of time with these people, they're probably going to be people that you're connected to for the rest of your life or a long period of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other part to this that I like is that um, a lot of times in heart-centered spaces, not everybody's cool with like business topics, you know,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and it's nice to be in a heart-centered space where I can go in and be vulnerable, but also be in a business friendly environment where I don't have to like shy away from talking about topics like ambition and venture capital and
Yeah.
sales forecasts and marketing, like any kinds of topics that come up. Don't have to hide that part of yourself in this retreat. And so
Yeah.
I find that that's a nice container to be in for those people who may be business oriented.
Yeah, and I would say for myself, when I first kind of started to move down, sometimes it feels like spirituality is in an industry, but spirituality is a way of being, I guess, like the wellness, mindfulness, whatever you want to call it. This new path that I had, I almost was like, I'm not spiritual in this way, but I'm also not corporate in that way. So where do I fit in? Like what is this? Because there were certain people that resonated with me, but I one time had back in the day when I tried a palm reader, this guy was like, "You're spiritual, but not spiritual in the way that people think." And I was like, "Yes, this makes sense." Because I'm fiery, I had a background in sales. Like I was in business. I was also specifically focused on the financial services industry. So I was doing tech sales for financial services. So like my personality is a blend, and once again, a bridge between worlds. So I'm looking for people that like can are similar, can go in multiple directions. They're multifaceted and they want to they want to talk about these things because we are talking about purpose and direction and businesses, but we're talking about it in a way that is very heart centered and soul aligned, and that is going to be for the benefit of the world, not just for yourselves. So that's the difference around this, and that's the difference around the business component, because sometimes when I was in the business world, it was so much about money, money, money. And yes, we can make money, and we can also do it from a heart centered place that is giving back to the world. So just getting people to think like that. And also, we have an application associated. So, ensuring that we're properly vetting people, having conversations with them to make sure they're heart centered and aligned so we can curate the right group of people. So, they're all people that, are like minded in the ways that matter.
Yeah, well, Lindsay has a background in broadcast journalism and worked in advertising. And I have a background, I studied finance and accounting and worked in public accounting and investment banking for a brief blip. So I think we're all like recovering corporates. Well, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Um, Lindsay, do you have any, I think I've been dominating this conversation. Do you have any questions?
No, I mean,
Or
you answered about the psilocybin journey, if you needed
Yeah.
experience or not. So it sounds like, you can go without experience. If you're
Yeah.
looking to embark on like a proper transformation where you're not just dipping your toe in, where you are actually ready to go in and do the work, that this is the sort of program for you. Because while this is a retreat, I'm also looking at this as a program. This seems like it's
It
a
is.
it's a
It
quarterly,
is.
it's a program,
It is.
um, which I think resonates with us like as
Yeah.
well, because that's the sort of world that we work in. We work with a lot of
Yes.
coaches and people who take people on transformational journeys in their own coaching way, and so it's
Yeah.
nice to see this in a retreat sense as well.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
so
thank
picking up on the fact that it's a program. So we're recording this kind of mid-October,
Okay.
and um, it's a year long. You mentioned that the first one is in November, which I got
Yes.
to announce that I'm excited to be joining you as you invited me to come. So I really am grateful for that. I'm hoping to be there. I will be there myself, book the flights. And so there's a short turnaround, an opportunity to go and join. I think there's a couple of spots left for the November one as a
Yes.
standalone. But then starting in February is when the following three, the winter, spring, and summer ones are really packaged together as a cohort of folks that are going to go move through there. So
Yes.
anybody that may be interested, think about it as a three pack with an option to add the November one. And people that, if you are interested, maybe you're not ready to commit to a whole year long program, but maybe you're in the New England area and you want to come join us November 7 to 10 in Vermont. I think there's an opportunity for you to come and experience and dip your toe in to Solii and see what that is like. And then maybe there's an opportunity for people that are interested in the whole year long program to come join us in Vermont in November and then upsell and buy the rest of it at the end of that package.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are your thoughts around? Do you have any? Did I explain that correctly, or what are your thoughts on kind of
Yeah.
the way the program is and how people can get involved?
Yeah, yeah. You explained it well. The one thing that I forgot to mention is the ayahuasca baby part of it. So the message from ayahuasca was, and one thing you'll learn about me is I'm very big on psychedelic integration. The messages you get are not always what they seem, so it takes time to integrate it, especially when it's a business idea. It's very confusing because the message I got was it's a retreat where people decide what they're going to pay at the end. So I was like, okay, a donation based retreat. I guess I'm going luxury for all these like fancy places, and I'm just giving away all my money, and it's my monk year. Like that's what happened. That's what's happening. But eventually I realized, in the way the model is now. There are the initial costs for the retreats, and they will be normal retreats costs given this type of retreat, an elevated luxury retreat experience. In the 2 weeks of integration prior, that's when you get back from the retreat, when you're back in your normal day-to-day environment, there will be options to have, we'll have like a Zoom meeting video call, and there will be a ceremony of generosity. And so then you'll decide how much money that you want to donate. And Solely Retreats is a nonprofit. I just registered Thanks, ayahuasca. Just registered this side of my business as a nonprofit. So the donations are tax deductible. For Americans, I'm not sure exactly how it works in Canada. I'm working with an accountant. We'll get there. Once again, ayahuasca baby confusion. But the idea is that whatever you donate will be contributed towards individuals in the future that don't have the money to afford the base costs, but they have the same kind of soul, spirit, dreams, and they still would be a great fit for the program. And this is how we are addressing inequality in these wellness spaces, because sometimes wellness, spirituality, mindfulness seems like it's only for it can sometimes be mostly for the privilege. So we're evening it out in that way. So it's an opportunity to give back as well. And kind of
So it's kind of like a scholarship fund. Afterwards,
exactly.
you'll be asked if you want to participate in a scholarship fund.
Exactly. And it's optional, right? Like if you can't pay, you don't have to pay any amount that people feel comfortable with. If it's $5, if it's $0, that's fine too. If it's a lot more, that's great as well. So whatever people feel comfortable with. And the retreats aspect or the nonprofit aspect of it is so, it can be tax deductible, and that it is going towards, future individuals. It's not just.
So so Solii is a nonprofit. So sorry to disappoint any venture capitalists that are listening to this. There's no shares to buy, and you can't.
Well, I
You
have one
can't get a
side of
piece
my
of it.
business that is, but I don't think I'm going in that direction.
We were
Yeah.
kicking around the idea of getting a scholarship fund going too, because some of the promotions we run, we earn commissions, and we were thinking we're in the early stages of looking at what that might look like, but
Yeah.
probably shouldn't announce something that's not ready to be announced ahead of time. But we're just talking here. But I like the idea of having a scholarship fund,
Yeah.
and then not being afraid to charge full price, but then creating a scholarship fund that allows for less financially privileged people to
Yeah,
participate
exactly.
also.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
Amazing. Let me
Great.
look at my notes. The destinations we talked about. So we've got British Columbia, we've got Vermont, we've got Costa Rica, the programs.
Well,
Yeah,
how
I
would
think
so
it's
if
really
somebody
cool.
wants to join this one coming up? What would be the next steps? They would fill out an application, talk to you. How do you?
Yeah. I mean, at this point, because we're kind of getting to crunch time, I would say book a call with me.
Mhm.
There's a part of me that's nervous saying that. I feel like my phone's just going to be blowing up, but sure. Well, I would say book a call. I have a calendar available, but also do the application. So
Okay.
if a lot of calls end up coming in, I probably will be prioritizing the
Yeah.
ones that fill out an
Okay.
application. So kind
So
of,
we'll put links to both of those, to the book a call calendar as
yep.
well as the application. If you don't see the book a call link, then that means that Shanae's calendar got overwhelmed and we had to shut it off. So at least fill in the application with the link that's wherever this is going to be posted, under the video or beside the video or wherever that is. There'll be a link to the application where you can submit, and then if there is a book a call link, then go grab a spot and have a conversation about your situation and whether this is the right fit for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
can't
I
wait to
don't
chat
have
with
any
you
other.
guys.
Amazing.
Yeah, this was
Sorry,
great.
what was that, Lindsay?
I was just going to say I don't have any other questions. I feel like this was a really great intro into how you work and how Solii works and the seasonal retreats. So thank you for
Yeah,
joining.
amazing. We'll probably do a debrief after, so we'll see what changes happen, and so it's exciting. Hope for the Retreat Finder community comes out and joins us for November, and joins Shanae for the rest of them into the rest of the year. So yeah, thank you for doing this. It's a labor of love. I can't imagine there's a whole lot of margin that's just like for you here. So it's a really labor of love and um, a great service to folks who are looking to make an impact through their work, through their professions, and into their lives. So amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks,
so
Sheenae.
much, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right,
Chatting.
Retreat Finder. We'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.
See you.